All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast. And it is summertime. And in the summer, you start thinking of some crazy things because it's the off season for the Avalanche. And how about this one, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom? What if the Chicago Blackhawks called up the Avalanche and said, hey, we got a number one draft pick and you got some superstars. Let's make a deal. What do we do? New episode, Locked On Avalanche, coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in, making it your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. Make sure to follow us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, LockedOnAvalanche@gmail.com. And follow us over on our YouTube channel. Over on YouTube, hit subscribe to get notified when a new show goes live. And why not subscribe to our subtext as well? Link to that is in the show notes below. Subscribe and chat with Kyle and I one-on-one. Look at our rundown over there. We're also going to kind of play a what-if game. I guess today's episode is what if. When I was a kid, like growing up in like the late 80s and early 90s, mid 90s, the best like comic books were those what if comic books, and they got reintroduced like a year ago on Disney Plus, released a cartoon series, the What If series. Those were fantastic because like it was just an alternate reality. And we're gonna do that today. We'll talk about where we would like to see some outdoor games, whether they involve the Avalanche or not. We will get to Mikko Rantanen's game. There's no what if about that. We know exactly where that's going. But where we're going to start, I saw on another Locked On podcast. It's a Minnesota Vikings podcast, and they threw out the hypothetical, and they preferenced it by saying like this is not something that they would do, but would Justin Jefferson, their all-world wide receiver, is he worthy of trading for a number one draft pick in the draft? And it got me thinking, like, what if the Chicago Blackhawks did come calling specifically this year, specifically for Connor Bedard? That's essentially what you're trading for. And what if they called the Avalanche and said, yeah, he is, expected to do amazing things. You have a few guys on your team that already are doing amazing things. So maybe we'll go for the sure thing. If you want to take a chance at, a prospect, one of the most highly touted prospects come around in a very, very long time, let's talk. I'm going to throw this on the bottom of the screen. If you see it on Instagram right now, this is for entertainment purposes only. Please don't start commenting like you guys are crazy. None of this will happen. We fully understand that. But when I saw it on that Viking show, it kind of like, ooh, that could be a good topic of discussion. And because it's Connor Bedard, and because we have three names in particular, all have M, Mikko, Makar, McKinnon. What would your answer be if they came calling to you?
All right, let's take a look. The Avalanche won the Stanley Cup 1 year ago. Took a major step back and stumble out of the first round last year. Looking into this year, would you take the chance on a projected generational talent in Connor Bedard and give up, let's say, Mikko Rantanen, Cale Makar? Would one of those names be worth a future?
I mean,
I honestly, as an Avalanche fan, would still say no. And I remember when we talked about Bedard the first time his name was brought up after Chicago got the number one pick in the draft, I brought up Eric Lindros.
Right.
And Peter Forsberg. do you still want to gamble, even though you know what this roster is going to look like next year, for Connor Bedard to fit into this roster? I still feel like, we talked about the Avalanche favorites going into this year, I still like what we have.
Yeah, I think for the Avs, it would be you would be taking a step back for a year or two because he's still got to get acclimated to the NHL game. And you have sure things in all three of those guys. You know exactly what you're getting going forward. And for as like highly touted as Bedard is, you don't know. I mean, everybody thinks and assumes that he is going to be as advertised, and I'm definitely one of those people. Crazier things have happened.
Mhm.
You know, there's been number one picks that just don't pan out. He's not cut from that cloth. He seems like, you know, the numbers he's putting up, and he just seems like everything is there for him to be that guy. But are you, you know, really giving up somebody like, you know, the generational talent that Cale Makar is?
Yep.
No. Because, and you're not doing that because that's a position change. You have one of the best defenders, or the best defender in the league. You're not giving that up. Mikko Rantanen just came off the best season of his career, which we will get to, obviously, in his season grade. And for that reason, because he means so much to this team, he's a perfect fit for the team. No, I don't do that either. And, you know, Nathan MacKinnon is just hands off. Like there is nothing. The only thing I would consider for Nathan MacKinnon is a 1-for-1 with Connor McDavid. And that would be it. That would be it. And I would even hesitate to do that just because McKinnon's is probably my favorite player on the team. It's just, it'd be hard pressed to do any of those. So,
and you know, to flip it around on Chicago, wouldn't that be the most Chicago thing they could ever do? Is trade away that number one pick. This is the first time we have talked about how incredible the Blackhawks might be potentially since 2016, 2017. It's been about a decade of them falling. Why would they do that for a Nathan MacKinnon? And by the way, when you brought up Connor McDavid, MacKinnon has a Stanley Cup. McDavid does not.
Right.
Which gives him the upper hand until McDavid decides to go to LA and get his cup. But I feel confident in this core. And by the time Bedard finally catches stride, I feel like this, like you saw the steps that Nathan MacKinnon made last year to ascend to another level that we didn't think was even humanly possible, but he did. Along with Mikko Rantanen also making that next step that we didn't think he had. And Cale Makar, yes, he had some injury problems, but he walked out of the Stanley Cup final with all of the hardware. And you could say that's going to happen again in his lifetime because he's also a generational talent. So they could go for the here and now, but I feel like this core for the Avalanche could keep the Avalanche relevant for the next 5 years where Bedard's still a coin flip.
He is, and I think that the Blackhawks have a plan to grow with Bedard, right? But if the Avalanche said like we would give you, and I'll say Cale Makar because he's the youngest out of the three of them, man, that's a pretty tough decision. I think that Chicago would have to, because he's young and you can still grow with him, but do they want to grow around a defender? I mean, who can score as much as a forward can score. I don't know. I think that would be a little bit more difficult for Chicago. Not that they would say no to Nathan MacKinnon, but because they're so far behind from being really relevant, you know, by the time you do, Nathan MacKinnon is probably in his 30s. And not that that's like, you know, the death knell of a hockey player, but you want to have, you know, the longest possible tenure of a guy like the Avs, like they do have with Nathan MacKinnon, and he had him since he was young. Same with all those guys are growing up now. They're like they're getting the fruits of all that labor. But I did throw this out to Jack Bushman, who hosts Locked On Blackhawks, and I asked him. I said, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And this was his response. And he goes, he laughs and he said, I love it. Personally, it's an easy no for Makar or Rantanen. Maybe it sounds crazy saying that for Makar, but it would be hard to trade arguably the best prospect the game has seen for a defenseman, even at that unbelievable caliber that Makar is. McKinnon is where it gets tough for me. If he was 25 instead of 27, and where he is currently, which is, already having won a Stanley Cup, that's difficult. He said that's a toughie. I would still probably lean towards no, because it would be terrifying trading away Bedard and watching him turn into a superstar elsewhere. I'm going to keep it and pick him. Fun question, he said. So he's saying no to all three, and he's sticking with Bedard.
And something else we haven't touched on. We talked about McFarland and Sakic needing to make a move, and their rankings with confidence sitting at like a B with the fan base. You want to see them go to a D to an F real quick? Trade away Nathan McKinnon or Cale Makar.
Or Mikko Rantanen.
Or Mikko Rantanen. Let that be the first move that they do this offseason.
Yeah.
We will go into a panic mode that you have never seen before.
It's DEFCON 5. Yeah. Yeah. So, like I said, not going to happen, but kind of fun to discuss. And I think if you were to say which team like would be more on the side of saying yes, I think it would be Chicago, because you're bringing in players that are, what you're getting in them. There's not that question mark. As great as Bedard is going to be, I think the Avalanche would say like no, because for that same reason, we know what we got, and we're already up here, and we're not going to drop down. We're not going to wait those 2-3 years for Bedard to turn into what he could be, because then we feel like we've just wasted 3 years with the guys that we kept around. Like, say you gave up Makar for it, and you wasted 3 years, because it'd be tough to get back to where you are right now, as Bedard is going through the paces, really.
Yep.
So, all right, fun question. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of comments on that, and I look forward to reading those. So let's keep with the Mikko Rantanen discussion and get to his season grade. But first, we are going to hear from FanDuel. And there we go. Here we go. All right. So it's like we said, it's summer. There's not a lot going on, but there is the baseball season. It's in full swing, and there's no better place to get on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers can get that no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Just go to FanDuel.com/locked-on to join today. And don't miss your chance to snag that no sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. FanDuel.com/locked-on. Sign up today. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball, and Major League Baseball trademarks are used with permission. All right. Mikko Rantanen, absolutely stellar season. I remember saying at one point during the year when McKinnon started to take off, and we were kind of having conversations about like Nathan McKinnon being a Hart Trophy candidate for MVP of the league. But if you talked about MVP of the Avalanche, it's probably Mikko Rantanen. It was a spectacular season by him, and I'm going to bring up the stats right now over on YouTube. There you go. A pluses across the board. And I know on social media, because you only get 4 fields to play with, I can't do pluses and minuses, but I added the pluses for everybody over on social media, because I'm assuming we all expected everybody to say A plus. And there you go. 98% on YouTube, 97% on Twitter, 96% on Instagram. Kyle and I both go A plus, obviously. When we've said it with a number of guys, you wanted to see them step up with all the injuries that they had. We listed a few of those guys in our other season grades. And when it was happening, we said Mikko Rantanen needed to be one of those guys. And he was hand over fist. He was brilliant all year long.
And I know it's not like the popular thing to say, but Mikko Rantanen, I love his game just a little bit more than Nathan McKinnon.
Why is
Just
that?
his nickname's the Moose, and he has
Mhm.
that lumbering, just he's good and he doesn't care mentality. Like he just kind of stumbles into the numbers that he puts up. Like Nathan McKinnon, it feels like he is exuding every like ounce of energy he can to be that stellar. And it's like Mikko Rantanen just is and doesn't care and just does his thing. He scores, yeah, that's awesome. He just keeps on going. Like his puck and you see that with like his penalty minutes because he's so emotional. He's all over the place. He's chaos personified.
Yeah.
And honestly, since 2017, has been a point per game player. You don't hear it advertised all the time. You don't hear because he's kind of in the shadow of Nathan McKinnon because Nathan McKinnon does all this incredible stuff and this work ethic, and he's a lightning bolt of just he's got swagger. But Mikko Rantanen does it quietly.
Hmm.
And I love Mikko Rantanen's game. And this was honestly his coming out year. This is like take notice of this Mikko guy. I mean, yes, he's good, but he's right there with the guy that we talk about, synonymous with the Colorado Avalanche and Nathan McKinnon.
Yeah, McKinnon's like the showman, right? And speed is like sexy out on the ice, and Nathan McKinnon has got that, and he, setting him up on the power play and ripping one-timers, like that's all like for the show, and Nathan McKinnon does that beautifully. Mikko Rantanen, yeah, he just kind of quietly and confidently just goes about his business. And for a team that's built on speed, he kind of deceptively fast. He's not Nathan McKinnon. He's not Cale Makar, but he always just seems to be up with the play. He's never trailing, and I think that's just his hockey sense.
Yeah.
He knows when it's time to get ahead of steam and start going up ice. He reads pucks beautifully. He's right place, right time. Him and Nathan McKinnon on the power play is so fun to watch because when they're playing on the wings, they both give you nightmares because Nathan McKinnon can do what he does and slap shots and all that gaudy stuff. And then you got to watch the cross ice pass to Mikko Rantanen because he does that chip shot and he's great on redirects and he's great on one-timers. And that's what makes these two guys a nightmare to play against, especially on the power play. He's great. He has a knack for the game and he does everything great and he makes it look effortless.
And he's kind of dwarfed by what Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar do because Mikko's usually the guy getting the puck in the defensive zone and turning things around, sending Cale Makar and Nathan McKinnon the other way. He's usually that guy getting things started. He's in the boards. He's getting chippy. He's pushing the puck. And if he's on the other side of that cross ice pass, he's giving it right back up. He's very unselfish. And when he does score, when he does get behind the goal, he's putting goals off goalies' backs. Like he plays every inch of the ice. Like he is everywhere. He's exactly where you need him to be, and he's always getting the play going and started.
Yeah, they needed him. They needed him to be everything that he was this year. And I don't know if the Avs, take the division without him because of all the losses that they had. The games that they were out, Cale Makar, the games that they were out, Nathan McKinnon, he just kept going. And you see 9 game-winning goals for him this year. I believe 3 of them were overtime game-winning goals. He did have that little moment in time where he was a little bit chippy, but you like that. You like that he has that about him because that's the one rub on the Avs is just they're not physical enough. And that's not their game. That's not their stuff. They're never going to be the team that is like physical first. But they have attitude. And Mikko Rantanen definitely has it. And sometimes it got him into trouble when he was taking one too many penalties and he was chirping at the refs too much. And he took a couple dumb penalties, but he's smart enough to know, like, I can't do that. I can't, that's not me. I let these guys get into my head. It's a game hockey is a game where you try to do that, and it got to him, but he's smart enough to know, like, I can't keep doing it. Like, that hurts my team. And we've seen how many other guys and other teams that they don't understand what, that does to their team. And they keep doing the same stupid thing over and over and over again. And in that moment in time, yeah, we weren't happy with Mikko Rantanen, but I wasn't thinking it was going to continue. I was like, he's going to fix that. He's going to correct it. And he did. And he had a moment and it was over.
And he knows how to correct himself when he lets his temper go. But also, if you put your eyes over there on the graphic, you see that games played number. How many games did the Avalanche play in the regulars in the playoffs? 7. How many games are there in the regular season? 82. Put those together. Games played for Mikko Rantanen, 89. We tout everybody who gets to play all games throughout the season. We've talked about it with a couple grades. Everydayers know who we give like a little bump to. That's why everybody gets an A+. Every grade is an A+ for Mikko Rantanen. He was there night in, night out for the Colorado Avalanche, and that's why his numbers look the way they do.
Yeah. So excited to see what he can do next year. He keeps saying that for a lot of guys on the Avs. You just want a healthy team, and you can see what a lot of these guys can do with a healthy team. He's definitely, man, if he did this with a decimated team,
yeah,
God, like he could, you see 115 points, including the playoffs. He had 10 points in that playoff series against Seattle, 7 goals and 3 assists. So as poorly as so many guys played for the Avs in that series, he was not one of them. So he continued right into the playoffs. So looking forward to another good Mikko Rantanen season. And that contract, believe it or not, is coming to an end here in a couple of years, believe it or not. So we're going to be right back to square one with needing to sign a superstar.
Yeah.
Salary cap, go up, please. Please.
And with numbers like this, this is why you see the Avalanche consistently favorited before the season starts with players like Mikko Rantanen.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So comment away on that and why you gave Mikko Rantanen an A+. So, all right. Last thing we wanted to get to today was outdoor games. I love them. I know there's some people that kind of feel like, oh, they've worn out their welcome. Nope, not with me. I'm not saying we should have more of them. I think they're right where they have. You get a few of them a year, and that's enough. You don't need to up them. You don't need to lower them just to have the one. I love the New Year's one, and then you have the Heritage Classic and the Winter Classic, and then a couple outdoor games throughout the year, and then you're done. I think it's perfect. The venue where they're going to play and the teams that are involved, it's always a big deal. I always pay attention to it because I love seeing who the teams are, and then I love seeing what the jersey reveal is going to be. And we know what outdoor games we have this year. We know we're going to Australia to start the season. The Coyotes and the Kings are going over there. So kind of fun to kind of just guess, like, where are some other places for, I put in the rundown outdoor games, but even if you don't really want to go beyond that, like I said, they're going to Australia or just other countries or things like that. Maybe start with the outdoor games of where you'd like to see some kind of cool venues for the NHL to go.
I have 2 selections. Both are outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
And I think both will help the game exponentially. One is blown through the roof like super production level, and one is about as stripped down as it could possibly get.
Okay.
If you want to kick off, well, you usually get your Winter Classic around New Year's.
Right.
Just picture this, my friend.
Okay.
On the ice. You could do this somewhere in New York City. In New York City.
Like Central Park?
Central Park.
That'd be sweet.
New York Rangers, Boston Bruins. Getting everybody excited for when the ball drops in Times Square. Capitalize on that crowd that's already there.
Mm-hmm.
And just make it part of like your New Year's countdown. The game's over. The ball drops. You can incorporate it all together. But just the nighttime New York City vibe, like everything is going on in New York as it is,
Right.
and you got a hockey game going on right in the middle of everything.
That would be a great one. Yeah, and they could do a lot with crowd there. You'd have to build kind of like the seating.
Mhm.
There'd be a lot of standing room. That might be the one that you could have fans right up near the glass
Yep.
if you wanted to. Because a lot of times when you're doing them on like the baseball field or the football arena, they don't allow fans like on the floor. But that might be one where they do, and that would give it a really cool look. You have this outdoor game and fans right up by the glass. That would be kind of neat.
And I think it would look good on television, especially if you're scrolling through, you get your New Year's party, you're
Yeah.
scrolling through like, what's this? You're culminating interest in the game. I think it's just a beautiful idea.
Yeah, I mean, and it's big enough.
Yeah.
Central Park is massive, so yeah, you'd have a lot of open space for fans to just hang around, and you could put giant TVs all over the
Yep.
place. So I know, there probably would be snow on the ground. You never know in New York City. It'd be clear, it could be snow, but you could have people kind of just, Central Park is busy as it is, so you could just have people kind of like passing through, or there's ways to do it, or just, God, imagine the images that would come out of that.
I
That'd be
know.
picturesque. That would be, yeah, that's a good one. I like that a lot. Definitely do that.
And like to kind of contrast that idea,
Mhm.
no fans, just a rink,
Uh-huh.
and take it to Canada. One of those picturesque ponds that you usually see like in those Instagram reels of just guys skating on the pond in the mountains. Just put a game out there.
Yeah.
Like it needs to we have run about every stadium possible. I've seen that they're talking with like some racetracks to like put a game on in the middle of a NASCAR racetrack. Like
Really?
I
Oh,
think we're getting kind of like off base with what we're
yeah.
trying to do with these outdoor games and losing it a little bit. So I say NHL, just get back to where it started. Get out there and just put a rink out in the middle and just capture hockey in its purest form.
Yeah, I mean, that would be great. From like the logistics side of it, or from a reality side of it. And the NHL has said this, like the Lake Tahoe, Avs in Vegas and Boston. I can't, who Boston did Boston play the Flyers? Was it Boston and Flyers? I think it was. I don't
I
know,
think so.
but it was the Avs. It was Avs in Vegas. On the golf course there, no
Yeah.
fans. They have come out and said, like, we are not doing that again. Like, that was a one-off. That was COVID era. That fit the time period. The NHL is not going to do something where no fans or minimal fans are at, because they gotta make as much money as they lose money most of the time probably on these outdoor games, but they do it for the fanfare. So what needs to happen is like another pandemic to come around. And I hate saying that because nobody wants that, to do something like that. But you know what, man? Like it would be, again, like it'd be similar to what you're saying with Central Park and just the setting and the venue. That would just be gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous to do something like that. And you saw how it looked on Tahoe, at Lake Tahoe. Like, it was just beautiful scenery. Yeah, so like those things, that those TikToks and Instagram stories of people just skating, and you just got those beautiful mountains out. I mean, you can find places in Colorado to do that.
Because I think it's one thing for us to have games like in North Carolina in a football stadium and all these different places that you don't typically get an outdoor game. But we talk about it so many times on the show. The NHL needs to do a better job at selling itself, and it's time to get back to the optics and the pure spectacle of the game itself and let that sell.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. And the one place where I would love to see them go back is Miracle on Ice. I say go back. They've never been there, but I
would be
mean, like,
nice.
to go back there, you would do that on an anniversary. You're just not going to do that
Yeah.
randomly. So, and that's a small venue. I've been there. It doesn't seat a lot of people, so that would be a hot ticket. But that'd be something to kind of celebrate it on an anniversary, just to go back up there and play. And that's not outdoors either. That would just be a venue game.
Red
But
Wings and
you could put it
Rangers.
outdoors. You don't have to do it on the ice. I mean, that's still there. The ice is still there, but you could do it that could be an outdoor game in Lake Placid to make a bigger spectacle of it. Just the fact that you're in Lake Placid would kind of be cool. And I know that wasn't NHL players and it was college kids, but still, just it's still, you go there and that is a hockey town. I mean, it's an Olympic hockey town, but everything there is just hockey lining the streets. It's great.
Have the NHL teams play inside Lake Placid, and the minor league affiliates of both, the AHL, let them play outside.
There you go. Beautiful. Solved it. Sign us up. Resumes are being sent.
You betcha.
All right. Where else do you guys think? Some venues that maybe the league has not gone to yet where you would like to see them go? Comment in the comment section. All right. That's going to wrap it up for today. Thank you for tuning in and making this your first listen of the day. That is always appreciated. We will be back. I think I have Hattie Caliclesh, our prospect guru, locked in for Thursday night to record with him. So that'll be on Friday. And then I think we're going to push the Vegas show back to next week because there's some scheduling conflicts that they're going through right now. They're busy men. They're celebrating. They're busy. So we'll get them in here sooner or later. But that's going to wrap it up for today, everybody. Once again, thank you for tuning in. It's always appreciated. He's Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli, and this is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. And we'll see you guys tomorrow.